I think you're still going to go with the Mexican team, Club León, a little bit for me in terms of the driver's seat. I think when you talk about the dominance that they show, particularly in the second half, you can see that, all the things everyone expected coming into the first leg, right? The match fitness is a lot sharper. They're a lot more competitive. They've played a lot more games. Again, they played on the weekend and won 3-1 against Atlas. Rodriguez is back for that game. Expect to see him. Montes is no longer suspended, so that's a couple of players that can certainly help. So, look, I think that they certainly have the advantage, although history under the current format will tell us over the last 3 years, 17 teams have gone away from home and scored a goal without losing in the first leg, and 16 of them have advanced. So there's still a lot on the side of TFC if they can find a way to duplicate quite a lot of that performance, which was positive.
The problem is this isn't a typical home match that's being played, right? Like, they don't have the benefit of BMO Field, although I do think to a certain degree it was a shot in the arm for Toronto FC, a real confidence builder coming away with a draw, which kind of felt like more like a win, at least to me and probably to the players as well. I think it remains to be seen, Andy, who's fit, who's ready to go for Toronto FC come Wednesday night. That will go a long way to determining how this game will play out. But I think, KJ, you're absolutely right. Just the firepower, the quality in this Club León side, like they're just such a good team. And I don't think we saw the best version. Perhaps they were a little bit surprised the way that Toronto FC approached that first leg. One thing to keep an eye on, I just wonder if Joel Campbell will be able to enter the United States. He was playing international friendlies in Bosnia and in Wales right at the end of March, and that 15-day quarantine period wasn't abided by. It hasn't played out yet, so that might be one key player that León might not be bringing to Orlando with them.
Yeah, valid points. I think before leg one, if you had asked TFC fans, they thought for sure it would be a 4, maybe even a 5-0 loss. So a 1-1 draw has suddenly given them confidence, but maybe that confidence has also faltered just a little bit, KJ, because we did see Jozy Altidore exit that game with an injury. There are some rumblings, maybe not as serious as some people would think, maybe not as long-term as some people would think, but still, what do you do if you're Chris Armas? How do you fill that void of getting someone who can score goals?
Well, your last point, I think, is the most crucial one. I think even with Jozy Altidore on the field, I think Gareth and Terry mentioned it last week in commentary, is that there's not a lot of goals in the team. I still think Michael Bradley's got goals in him, and the positions he picked up in the game on the first leg. I think there's opportunities where he can score. We've seen him a little bit in glimpses like that. The opening game against Philadelphia a couple of seasons ago come to mind. But to answer your question directly, I think they've got to find a way to try and get somebody to match the intensity. And a lot of concentration is when you're trying to replace a number 9 is what are you going to do with the ball? How are you going to get your production? And I think a player like Patrick Mullins can bring the intensity of what they're going to need and lead the line from the front, really chase down, press high. And I still think that they're the key dynamics for what TFC need to do if they're going to get through this tie, Oli.
Yeah, you can't replace Jozy Altidore straight up, right? Like, unless you can get Ayo Akinola back, and I would think that's highly unlikely, given he's had, a problem through preseason and hasn't really played at all, I don't think. So not having kind of that direct replacement, you have to rethink the attack, and you have to rethink how you're going to attack and how you can do it in a different way. And I think Patrick Mullins is the guy they'll likely go to. And like you said, KJ, you get an awful lot of heart and fight and grit from him, and someone who could maybe hold the ball up. So then the key, I think, is going to be that midfield, bringing them into play more, getting runners beyond Patrick Mullins. If you could get someone like Jonathan Osorio back, I don't know his status, that would be huge, obviously, because he can add those goals from midfield. And yeah, even someone a bit deeper like Michael Bradley, who's capable of making those box-to-box runs. I think a lot of it is not really going to fall on who replaces Jozy Altidore. It's going to be the players around whoever is playing up front, making sure that striker gets the right support and making sure there's a goal threat from somewhere, rather than, looking for a like-for-like replacement that probably doesn't exist.
Amazing how storylines can change in just a matter of 1 week. Again, heading into leg one, expectations were low because of all the injuries to Toronto FC and the young players starting in the starting 11, KJ. But again, now with this 1-1 draw and heading at home, who would you say needs to have a big game? Now the expectation is someone needs to have a big game.
Yeah, I agree. I think what we've seen, again, by the evidence of the profile of the first game is that for TFC to beat this side, everyone's going to have to play well. You can't have any passengers, and we didn't have any passengers from Toronto FC as performance on Wednesday. I think you can't have a couple of players getting a 4 or a 5 out of 10, everybody's 7 and above. I think it's clear that, we showed that everybody played a part on the Wednesday's game first leg. But I'm going to go with Omar Gonzalez to answer your question, Andy. I just think a player like that can really marshal the back line. We're still not sure about what kind of players are going to be around him, whether Chris Mavinga is going to be healthy enough. But I think he brings so much quality in terms of what goes on in between the ears, the experience, the ability to get through games, to really marshal players like Eric Zavaleta if he plays next to him and bring that inexperience a little bit and be that experienced back line. I thought he did a really good job in the first leg of making sure that there wasn't too much 1-2 football played around. So he's spinning back to his goal too often. Everything's kind of in front of him and Zavaleta. I think that was pivotal to CFC's success in leg 1 and will need to be the same in leg 2.
They have so much talent in the middle of the park, Club León, but I'm really looking at the fullbacks, Loré and Aro. I thought Aro in particular played outstanding over the course of the first leg, and limiting Menezes and Mena, 2 very good players, 2 dangerous players. And oftentimes you saw León try to switch from the offside and play the ball across the park onto an oncoming runner on the far post on a regular basis. I just think that their attention's going to have to be ticked up that much. Just a reminder, León's the one that needs to come out to score here. So I think it's up to Toronto FC to decide how they want to play this. Do they want to be a little bit more aggressive out of the gate, maybe press, try to go on and get that second goal, or go out and ride their luck? So there's multiple ways to do it, but no matter what, the fullbacks need to play well to keep this León side contained.